without further ado, nutrition. Because, I mean, a lot of folks would they tune into the show to understand what is this sort of checklist, what can I eat more of? And I have this we have this together sort of suggestion or saying that in many instances, it's hard to eat yourself into therapeutic range. Hence supplementation. So we can talk a little bit about that. But before we get there, in your clinical practice, as it relates to nutrition, what are some of the things that basically we should be avoiding putting into these little bodies because they seem to, per science, trigger or evoke or make worse this diagnosis?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of parents are always asking, well, what can we start doing at home, right? And I think it's important to know that when we're putting food in our bodies, we're not just fueling our bodies, but our brains, right? So it's important to model healthy habits from the beginning and to have those conversations when you're preparing meals and involving kids in the kitchen and even grocery shopping, right? So we want to make sure that we do, whole grains and fruits and vegetables and all of those healthy or colors of the rainbow type of foods. And you can have these discussions with kids as early as, when you're at toddlers or, when you're in the grocery, just narrating what you're seeing. And I think, sometimes parents feel a little bit funny talking all the time out loud, but I think it's really important to help make that connection because sometimes we just do life without commenting on anything.
Sure. Without identifying.
Yes, but kids are learning. They're sponges, and they look to parents for, advice, and you are your child's most important teacher, right? So they're always listening to you. So using those everyday moments to talk freely about what you're seeing and do it in the moment because, again, for children who have ADHD, you can say something 5 minutes later and they're already somewhere else. So,
modeling behaviors, everything. But you mentioned listening. I mean, it's funny. I was watching this, I think it was a YouTube video or something, maybe something on Instagram, I don't know, social media, but it was a group of infants, 1-2-year-olds in a room, along with snakes. And this will make sense in a second. Non-venomous.
Okay.
And the parents were off to the side with snake fear. And they were watching so they originally had, most of us do have fear of snakes. And they were watching their kids play with these snakes. And this experiment was done because it was basically describing how kids don't just learn by example, by being taught, for example, but they will look at you.
Yes.
So fear-invoked states are literally, Mom, are you afraid of this thing? And if not, and immediately 2 or 3 of those reinforcement, and that's it. We're afraid of snakes, subconscious as we're kids. And I guess the reason I bring that up is because modeling is so key to this whole thing. So, and that's maybe why the environmental, biological, environmental, the argument's always kind of balanced around the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, the genetic factor. But you mentioned something, we've had Dr. Bill Sears on the show. He also refers to us as fatheads. He talks a lot about it.
Babies and children.
Yeah.
And us. Yeah.
And he says, just like you, and we agree, eating a rainbow of fruits and vegetables every single day, that's where it starts. And even at a very young age, when you introduce solids, particularly the purple, right?
Yeah, no, he had this great, I still remember it so clearly, because, all pediatricians, and especially Bill Sears, had, hundreds and thousands of, parents ask him, what should a child start eating first? 6 months, 7 months. So he has this golden rule, avocado at 6 months, salmon at 7, because it's all those fatty acids going into the brain. And in terms of, what we can avoid, looking at what the pitfalls are in terms of diet going forward for babies, infants, children, I think there's really 3 big ones. Number 1, anything artificial colorings, artificial sweeteners especially, artificial preservatives. I mean, the science is out there now with the colorings. They've never been allowed to be in the European Union. They're outlawed. They've never been allowed in food, only in America and other countries. So there, EPA just finally came out, said they can actually irritate their neurological irritants.
Finally. Let's underscore that, by the way. Right. And without getting political, we're at a point where we're recording this today, and we're months away from a new administration onboarding under the guidance of RFK Jr. when it comes to, the health administration and avoiding those.
Yep. So artificial colorings, number 1, right? Artificial sweeteners, number 2. And then looking at what what can be introduced to support, and that's where we come down to the right omega-3s, fatty acids, color of the rainbows, all the antioxidants. Yeah. And it's the antioxidants, if you really think about it, like in all of those, green leafy vegetables and other vegetables, they're the frontline choice and soldiers for detoxifying anything that gets into a child's body that shouldn't be there. So if we keep the antioxidants high, keep the artificial colorings and sweeteners out, then we have the best chance to grow nice.
Yeah. And you mentioned, and it temporarily made me wince for a quick second, but I'll allow you the opportunity to qualify. No, really, your opinion is everything, but you said grains, and I wholeheartedly believe that's true. I'm not one of those paleo heads or, we should all be eating meat the rest of our lives at all. But is there an exception, in particular in this group, where they may be more sensitive to the gluten category? Is that something that you would endorse, or would you say it's not proven yet?
I mean, there's definitely studies to suggest that gluten can be a culprit too. So, I think part of this is when I think of working with families, first of all, obviously looking at all of the different factors that can be contributing to how this child is doing and recognizing that the child doesn't live by themselves. So whenever we make nutritional choices, it will affect everybody, right? And so I think a lot of parents, if they're willing to do that and eliminate things from their diet to really see the impact it has on their child's behavior and mental health, it's great. I mean, because then that's how we figure these things out, right? It has to be a stepwise elimination, but everybody has to be on board.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's impossible, for one family member to avoid gluten. Without the whole family being on board.
Yes.
But you can do perfectly well in my own clinical experience to avoid the gluten category if you suspect it. And I think I'm with you. It's not hard evidence yet, but there is this brain-gut connection. And we do know that when you've got leaky gut, you've got leaky brain. And essentially that translates to potential food sensitivities, not the born allergies like peanuts or strawberries and fish. But it's nothing to do with what's good or bad. It's all to do with what the immune system may say, I don't know about that. So avoidance of gluten, and we can go to, we can take away rye and spelt and wheat, and I think not have a problem with millet, quinoa, cassia, buckwheat, and all these other things that the baby would do, or the young infant would do just as well with. Millet.
Many great choices.
Oats. What about dairy, though? Let's have the dairy conversation real quick. A, is this an instigating factor for any of these children? And B, is it kind of necessary? Like, do they need milk growing up?
Your thoughts first.
I was going to defer to you on that because, milk and calcium are really important, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think it's the form of milk. That's what I think. I think milk is important. If we really look, and I look at what, use a mother's milk as the closest sort of reference point, which obviously it should be, then we see that, there's other animals that are a little closer to human milk than cow's milk. And the number one being sheep's milk. So sheep's milk is really the closest naturally occurring mammal milk to human milk, apart from mice milk, which you just can't get together now. So, there's goat milk, there's sheep milk, and now, especially in New Zealand, the sheep milk is really developing the industry. It's a very, very grass-fed sheep, fantastic product. So that's my recommendation from the start. Why even try going down that pathway if you don't need to, if it could be a chance of irritating? So just, start with sheep milk.
And or if you're noticing in your child and you're starting to question, because to your point with this sort of criteria checklist, they're in daycare and they're jumping all over the place, hard to wrangle in, like herding cats, to start to question. What are some of the things, I guess, is what we're saying that you can maybe because what we're doing is eating 3 to 4 times a day, and children are, if you can manage at least what's going in, you can, and it does seem to affect them. So there's the trial and error factor, right? I mean, there are substitutes without compromising for calcium, for example. Sheep's milk might be one of those.
Yeah.